All right, good morning. It's 9:05, and I'm going to call this meeting of the Planning Commission to order. We have a quorum of 6. First item is the consent agenda. The Commission may request for the consent agenda items to be moved to the regular agenda for presentation and public comment. Otherwise, the consent agenda may be considered in one vote. All items on the consent agenda have been recommended for approval by staff with no opposition received to date. Since some items on the consent agenda may require public hearing, the Commission will accept public comment on any item on the consent agenda in one public hearing.
And I'd like to just go over this
Yes.
briefly. I think we...
Please.
Okay.
I was going to say, we've got, I was talking with the staff before the meeting, and we have several subdivision plats. I don't think there's a lot to these. They're straightforward. There's no variances that have been requested from my understanding. But I thought that it would be beneficial to all of us to just get a brief look at these. And for me personally, since I'm signing them, I'd like to know what's coming in.
Okay.
So,
Jeff Fisher,
thank you,
Chief
Jeff.
Planner. We'll do this real quick. So the 4 plats don't have any major contentious issues are on our consent agenda, but just for the public and for the planning commissioners. The first one is Theo Alexander subdivision. There was a piece of this that was abandoned through a right-of-way. They're just replatting that one lot where Ben Ficklin and North Bryant meet. Zoning is Cgch. The Hajida property subdivision. This is north of 23rd and Bryant. This is a CH zoning, again, a one-lot subdivision, formerly surveyed land. First replat in Block 6, Palm Section 2. These lots were already approved and recorded years ago as part of the Palms Court. I believe there was a small easement or area, and so they're just adjusting a lot line. So that's all you're seeing there.
Okay.
And you'll have 16, 17, and 18A. And then finally, you've got the Hatcher addition. And I believe that is just, Aaron, just a replat into 3 lots? Okay.
Is it not shown three lots?
Yes.
2, right.
Going to 2.
reduction.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
My bad. Here it is.
There it
Yeah.
is. Okay. All right.
Okay.
So we have consideration of the June 20th minutes that's also on here, and these 4 plats. I'm going to open it up for public comment. Anyone wish to speak on the consent agenda items, please come forward, state your name and single member district or address. All right, I'm going to close public comment and take a motion.
Make a motion to approve as presented.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. No. All those saying no. Okay, 6-0. All right, we're going to jump around a little bit on this. We're going to go to the discussion item for information only, no action required. Item A, Arden Acres annexation. Presentation of a proposed annexation of an unaddressed 6.9 acre tract out of the A, B, and M survey, number 3, abstract 24, Tom Green County, Texas, located northwest of Arden Road and FM 2288.
Thanks, Commissioners. Jeff Fisher again. So all of these next cases kind of all relate, or at least portions of them do. So I'm going to start with the proposed annexation. This is going to City Council on Tuesday, August 2nd to accept the petition. So this is just a discussion item today, so you all know what was coming up. They will need a rezoning of this piece, 6.9 acres, northwest of 2288 and Arden Road. So expect that zoning will probably be in for next month, Planning Commission, if they get it in. For now, we're just looking at annexing that land into the city, and they will need the zoning in order to move forward. A piece of this is part of a future preliminary plat that we'll be discussing shortly. It's a very small piece of it, but it is a piece of it. There is a minor collector road proposed to go through this. That might end up being realigned. If they do keep that there, they'll have to construct a street meeting that minimum road standard. Servicing as well, the blue lines, not the dotted, but the other blue lines indicate the water lines that are currently in the area in the sewer. So part of this will be doing a servicing plan if council accepts the petition, and then moving the servicing plan forward and looking at how all of those lots get onto city water and city sewer, which will be required. This will be in the Bluffs neighborhood, Larry Miller's District 6 after annexation. So here's the subject area. So the annexation is just the area over here that's 6.9 acres. This area as well was recently purchased and is part of a rezoning today. And then 100 acres, which includes this and a whole bunch of stuff up here, is all part of that preliminary plat. So just try to keep us on track here, but there's a few different moving parts. So there's the area that's R&E in green that's going to be rezoned. The front portion, it will stay R&E, except for this small sliver here that'll go to CN. So we'll present that in a few minutes. This is located in the intermediate area of the city's annexation plan, but since the annexation plan was written about 15 years ago, it's now into the current area for annexation. Service plan will address utility connections as mentioned. So here's the timeline. August 2nd, it will go to council for a petition. If they accept that, the zoning will be presented August 15th. That's the timeline. If they change that, we generally aim for within 90 days per state law. September 20th would be the first public hearing on the annexation and zoning, and then October 4th would be the second reading of the zoning. So they'll likely go to RS1 because the annexed area is part of that subdivision plat for single-family homes. So RS1 would make the most sense. That concludes the annexation. If anyone had any comments for discussion, like I say, we're moving that along.
Okay, so there's nothing that you need from the Planning Commission in terms of a vote or
No.
to move forward with that?
We thought it was better this time, and then for the public as well that's watching, that they're aware there's an annexation coming in, and then we'll move it forward through the council process.
Okay, could you go back to the map that we were just looking at? You talked about a preliminary plat that covers a portion of the annexation and more. Can you give us a general idea of that area?
Absolutely. So the preliminary plat is going to be 100 acres, and then the final plat, had it here, which will be part of that, will be about 15 acres. So the preliminary plat will include all of this land over here that you see. So this part in green that's being rezoned today,
Yes.
RS1, the annexed area, and then another X number of acres. So that'll come up here like this to the west and to the north. So it'll be about 100 acres of a preliminary plat. So not all of that preliminary plat, particularly the huge area to the north, is going to be subject to annexation for now or zoning for now. So the preliminary plat would be approved for future development, and there would be a condition in there that they can't they can't final plat any of those preliminary plat sections that don't get annexed or rezoned.
Okay. Is the land to the south of the annexed area in the city limits, or is it ETJ?
It's ETJ.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else have questions? All right. Thank you, Jeff. The next item is under rezonings. The City Council has final authority for approval of rezonings. Z2216, northwest of Arden Road, and FM 2288, a request for approval of a rezoning from the Ranch and Estate to single-family residential RS1 and neighborhood commercial CN zoning districts, being 31.17 acres, located northwest of Arden Road and FM 2288.
Okay. So for the zone change, it's going to be this area in the square, the green area, as well as a small piece to the east. The small piece will be CN to provide a buffer, a transition, allow some local neighborhood commercial in there because there's so much residential. And then this area would be RS1. The red lined area here is future annexation. Like I said, that'll be rezoned later. But all you're looking at today is just this part. Why? Because in order for the final plat to go forward, they need to have appropriate zoning. The R&E requires a minimum of 1 acre, so this will be rezoned to RS1, which will allow the smaller lot sizes. So looks like it's small, but it's actually quite large. It's 31 acres altogether. So about 20-ish acres are going to be the RS1. That's the one that you saw in the green that was R&E. And then that little sliver to the east is going to be CN. This is District 3, Harry Thomas. So the future land use is mostly neighborhood where it's going to RS1. And then the commercial area is going to be mostly CN. So the comprehensive plan allows the zone changes. The zone changes will be compatible with the comprehensive plan. And they will keep the rest of that R&E over here. A different developer owns this and wants to kind of keep that for future. So that would need to probably be rezoned to commercial if they keep it, the future land use the way it is right now, but we're not touching that today. Because they own such a large area, as mentioning 100 acres, only 2 notices were mailed out. We did not receive any responses. This is looking north on Arden, south on Arden, west of the property. As you go further southeast, it's pretty much no man's land once you go north of FM 2288 and Arden Road, but once you go south, you've got a subdivision on one side and then a storage facility on the other side. So again, keep the commercial closest to 2288. As you go further back, residential is definitely appropriate. So we think this zoning is, meets the intent of the comp plan and the zoning. All of the lots will exceed the minimum lot sizes. Typical lots of those plats are about 65 feet wide by 125, so a little bit larger. RS1 minimum is 50 by 100. So they'll have nice sized lots to build on, approximately 8,125 square feet, and the minimum's only 5,000. So staff recommends approval of the rezoning from R&E to RS1 on the 26.71 acres, and then that buffer in the middle, the neighborhood commercial CN on the east, 4.46 acres. Any questions?
Anyone have questions for the staff? Thank you, Jeff. I'm going to open it up for public comment.
Good morning, Russell with Cgch Engineering. I would really just be happy to answer any questions. As Mr. Fisher pointed out, there's a lot of stuff going on in this area today with respect to the annexation request, the rezoning, a preliminary plat, and a final plat. So this area's kind of been setting out there, really just prime for development, if you will. Water and sewers in close proximity. The Petra firm, David Jensen, that owns this larger area, it planned on developing it some years back, hence kind of the annexation area that's kind of sticking out there today. He was approached by the West Texas land guys at San Angelo. So they're buying the 100 acres with the intent to develop the single-family residential, the RS1, in this 100-acre area. Mr. Jensen's keeping the land there, kind of the commercial land along 2288. For future, we talked in talking to Mr. Fisher about the zone change and whether we zone change that front R&E to CG now. Mr. Jensen was worried about how that could potentially impact property taxes, and so he's like, you know what, let's just leave that alone as it is, and as I find a user and get ready to develop it, they'll be coming forward to rezone that. We did the CN kind of area there kind of twofold because it was necessary to create that buffer, and then if you'll notice, it's over 200 feet wide, which is outside, which was our notification area when those RS1 lots develop. They'll be outside of any notification area for when we rezone the R&E to CG in the future. So there'll be residential going back behind there. I don't know how it'll be conveyed to them, but that front part will, at some point, the expectation will be some sort of commercial, maybe multifamily or some mixed of that. So we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Anyone have questions for Mr. Gully?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, anyone else wish to speak on this case? All right, I'm going to close public comment, and if anyone else wants to share their thoughts or make a motion.
I move that we accept as presented.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 6-0. All right. So now we have some subdivision plats that are associated with this same area that I'd like to go over. So regular agenda items, subdivision plats, the Planning Commission has final authority for approval. Appeals may be directed to City Council. Do you want me to read both of these in, or do you want them individually?
I think either or. We're going to do one presentation.
Okay. So, item C, PP 2205 Arden Heights, preliminary plat, a request for approval of a preliminary plat of Arden Heights being 100.35 acres located northwest of Arden Road and FM 2288. And then item D, FP 2218, Arden Heights, Section 1, a request for approval of a final plat of Arden Acres, Section 1 being 15.795 acres located northwest of Arden Road and FM 2288.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. I think this map probably makes a lot of sense now that we've gone through this. So that red box here where the final plat is that you're looking at, that's the part that's being rezoned to R&E, as well as a portion of, including this part of the preliminary plat. So preliminary plat is a much larger area. So again, that area to the north is not going to be annexed in or zoned for some time. But again, they'll have, before they final plat anything up here, they're going to have to come in and annex and rezone it, because the lot sizes are only, like I said, about 60 by 120. So they would need to do that. Same neighborhood, same district as before. On the preliminary plat and the final, there is a future collector road that's running through east-west here called Bosque Drive that's going to connect the plat to FM 2288. That is a major arterial road, so under the new sidewalk ordinance, they will have to put in sidewalks. Since it's only a road, it's really just the ramps, because there's actually no sidewalk. It's just the stub outs here. So that will be a requirement of the final plat. The preliminary plat is 382 lots, and then the final plat, which is just a portion down here, will be 53 lots. So that's what y'all are approving today. Again, I'll go through this quick, same pictures as before. The preliminary plat and the final plat section in the preliminary is exact same lot sizes, so it conforms. The sidewalk ramps are required based on a major arterial road, and TxDOT, as you know, has been gradually filling in, chiseling out sidewalks along that area anyway, so this will just continue those sidewalks as future development happens. Again, the future land uses neighborhood supports the rezoning from R&E to RS1 that you looked at, so that'll allow this to move forward. Staff recommends approval of both. 3 conditions of the preliminary, just a couple notes. And again, this is just for future developers that are looking at this. Annexation is required with zoning to allow city services, so that huge remainder to the north will have to come into the city. Fire hydrants and access may be needed in a preliminary drainage study. Then final conditions, tax certificate, sidewalk plan for those ramps on 2288, drainage study, install water main and sewer connections, install sewer main and, service connections, Bosque Drive. They'll need Bosque Drive plans and construction for a variance. That's the minor collector road widths, and then all the other internal streets will be local roads. Again, submit plans for those as well. That concludes our presentation. Any questions or comments?
You want to have questions for the staff? All right, let's open it up for public comment.
Russell Gully with Cgch Engineering. We would ask for your approval of the preliminary plat and the final plat for Section 1 of Arden Heights, and would be happy to answer any questions.
Russell, are you working on the final plat and the annexation land seem to match up, but the preliminary plat covers a larger area? Is that correct?
Jeff, could you go back to maybe the graphics of the preliminary and final plat? The annexation area, if you look at the preliminary plat, is the westerlymost street. And so the final plat of Section 1 is within the area that is currently annexed.
Okay,
And the annexation line is just at the west boundary of the final plat. So it's, the annexation area is largely that area to the west of this first Section 1.
is the developer in the process of rezoning all of this plat?
The zone change that you just approved is for the area that's all in the city limits, which would be starting at, I can't read that street name, but the westerly, it starts at this Section 1 and then comes forward and covers, I guess, the 4 streets shown on the preliminary plat south of Bosque Drive.
South of Bosque, okay.
So everything that we're zone changing to RS1 that was just approved is that area that includes the final plat of Section 1.
Okay. So there's not currently plans, you're not in the process of rezoning the northern section of the preliminary plat at this time?
The area north of Bosque is currently not in the city limits and not part of the annexation request. So it's they felt like this area of Bosque Drive and south was probably a 3 to 5 year kind of build out. And
Yes, sir.
so they just, that's kind of what they wanted to focus on.
Yes.
For now with the annex. Adding in that back part, and developers bring different mentalities to every, they all think about stuff differently. And these developers want to develop back and come forward. So, they're thinking, okay, we want to have these houses start to the back and then come forward. Well, it was like, well, this little back area is not annexed, so we're going to have to come back and grab that and annex it. So it was a little backwards. Sometimes developers would want to start closer to the highway and go backwards and go away from it. These
Right.
guys are actually starting backwards and coming forward with it, and they want to say, well, we want people to be able to see the home construction from 2288 until we're built out there. So they really wanted to start all the way to the west and catch that area that's outside the city limits, but because it was an annex, they came in and are catching these 2 streets that for Section 1, and they'll probably come back and grab that 1 street to the west once it's annexed and zoned, and then move back forward and finish out the other 2 streets to the east that's all on the south side of Bosque.
Okay, so there's, the focus of the build-out is south of Bosque.
Yes, sir.
And the roads, the eastern portion has already been annexed into the city, or?
Yes, sir. The part, and I don't know, Jeff, if you want to go back to the annexation map, but the kind of the Section 1 is already annexed, currently annexed in the city.
Okay,
And then the zone change that we just heard is kind of the part that's already annexed in the city.
okay,
So the annexation will be that back 6 acres that's west of this Section 1.
got it. On the left side of the red final plat
Yep.
box.
Yes, to the,
It's the same left.
The west.
to the left of that red box.
To
That's
the
right.
left of
That's
the
gonna
red
be
box
annexed in.
is what's being annexed. Okay. Okay. Does anyone else have questions for Russell? Thank you, Russell.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else wish to speak? All right, I'm going to close public comment. So we had a case last month where we had a subdivision plat that was approved by the Planning Commission prior to the zoning case that came through. And it caused, I think, a lot of problems for the residents in South San Angelo. They weren't notified of the plat, but they were notified of the zoning. And so when they came in with questions and concerns, a lot of the legwork had already been done from the platting standpoint. The developer's saying, I've been working on this for months with the Planning Commission, and you guys are just now coming in to voice your concerns. You should have come months ago. when I was working on this. So what we learned as a planning commission was that the city was not required to give notice until the zoning change was requested. And so I have great concerns with repeating that problem going forward. And I would like to propose a discussion with the staff and the members of the Planning Commission about how to handle these annexations going forward. I think that notice, even in the situation like this where it's not going to apply here because the notification area is for land that's all owned by the parties that are part of the transactions. There's, I guess, two parties, I think, that are included in this specific case. But I feel like we need to look at the process of annexation comprehensively and come up with a plan. Can you explain the annexation process to us, John, and what the steps are and where what the path for the platting and the zoning would be as it relates to the annexation?
Yeah, basically, in short, the annexation process is a property owner will request in writing to be annexed into the city. That kicks off a statutorily defined process that includes acceptance of that petition by the council, and then a process that includes public hearings. As you noticed today, it does not require anything of the Planning Commission.
Right.
We bring that to you all just for information. But then there's a process whereby the city council holds, I think, 2 public hearings, and then adopts an ordinance basically annexing that property.
Okay.
And so that takes anywhere from 2 to 3 months, roughly.
Is zoning required for the property to be annexed?
It's not technically required to be zoned at that time, but that's our normal process now, is to have a zoning case for that property to be going concurrently with that annexation.
Okay. And then in terms of platting, if someone is platting property in the ETJ, are they required to zone that property? What are the requirements within the ETJ, and how do they maybe vary from within the city limits?
Well, I'll answer that in 2 ways. One, for a preliminary plat, that is basically just a future vision of a large area. Here's how we plan to develop it in the future. And so there's really no requirement for annexation or zoning for a preliminary plat, because it's really just a conceptual layout so that the developer and the city know what the future plans are. It's the final plat that actually literally creates legal lots. And so that's where any requirements like that come in. So yes, technically, before you can plat a lot, it has to have the proper zoning for that size lot.
Okay.
That you're proposing. So in this case, with the Arden Heights Section 1, they don't have the zoning yet, although you did hear it today.
Yes.
It will go to city council. And as we do with other items, we have included that as a condition. So technically, before you approve a plat, they're supposed to have water and sewer. Instead of making them go put water and sewer in the ground before you'll even approve the plat, what we do is you all approve the plat with a condition that they address the water and sewer and road construction and other things. So that's what the purpose of those conditions are. In the past, we have, in some cases like this, recommended a condition that you can go ahead and approve the final plat with a condition that the rezoning is approved. You're not obligated to do that. You could say, no, it doesn't have the proper zoning yet, so we're not going to approve this until it does. But again, you also have the ability to make that a condition. So the plat doesn't get finally approved and doesn't become official until all those conditions are met.
Okay, so in the case of the project in South San Angelo, did we approve a final plat before it was rezoned?
You did. Now, I will say a difference with that one versus this one, that zoning came later after the final plat. In this case, you're hearing that zoning case today.
Yes.
Now, well, and to be clear, as Russell pointed out, this annexation that you saw today is for a different piece of property than this final plat.
Yes.
So this final plat is in the city limits already. You heard the zoning today. You're correct, it still hasn't been approved by city council, so technically the zoning's not in place. But if the concern is people who might have gotten notice weren't aware of the final plat, in this case, today they would have been, because both of those items are on today's agenda. And so
Okay.
that's a difference versus Fairway Downs.
Okay, so today we have a preliminary plat for a much larger area than the final plat that is also being discussed and considered.
That's correct.
Can they develop the preliminary plat without zoning? Are there,
No.
or annexation?
No, again, a preliminary plat is just, here's all the property we want to develop ultimately and the whole layout of it. And that's mainly so that we can ensure all the roads connect properly. If we were just to allow final plats to be done individually, that's how you sometimes end up with problems where, you know, this development, the roads stub out, but the next development, the roads don't continue.
Yes, sir.
And so the preliminary plat is looking at the big picture, but a preliminary plat does not create legal lots. It doesn't allow lots to be sold. It's more of a conceptual layout of the property.
Okay, and for the platting process, there's no notice that's required to be given for platting.
For the most part, there are some exceptions in state law for residential replats, but for greenfield
annexation.
development like this, there are no requirements for platting. And just a reminder, the difference between something like zoning, which is discretionary, you all can decide, is this the right zoning for a property? Yes or no? Does it make sense? With a plat, your job is not discretionary. It's simply you're reviewing a plat to see if it meets the city's subdivision ordinance standards. So it's more of a ministerial type action. Does it meet the standards? Then you must approve. If it doesn't meet the standards, then you must deny. And so that's the frustration from property owners who may be near a property, like with the recent one at Fairway Downs. Even if you had thought this is a bad idea and the neighbors are all opposed, if it meets our current subdivision ordinance, you're obligated by state law to approve it. That's really all you're looking at.
Right.
And so that's where the frustration comes with those property owners really have no say nearby a subdivision.
And I guess my rebuttal to that would be that the problem that we ran into was that we approved a final plat before we went through zoning. And only when we went to zone that property did the residents get any notice of what was being done.
That's correct.
And so any input, any involvement of any kind was way late to the game. Everything had been kind of locked in at that point. So,
And that is a risk the developer takes, because you all could have said, no, that zoning is not appropriate for that property. The neighbors are opposed. You know, maybe all the neighbors are 1 acre lots, but these guys are wanting to do 1/4 acre lots. That's not appropriate for the area. You could have recommended against it. City council could have denied that rezoning, and then the plat basically would not be approved because one of those conditions was that rezoning. It's kind of a backdoor way of doing it because, again, the plat's already approved.
Yeah.
But it would have effectively denied the plat because you would have blocked off the avenue for
they wouldn't have been
for one of the
allowed
conditions.
to move forward with the plat.
Right.
Because the zoning wouldn't allow
Right.
the development. Okay, so.
That's why it is a little bit of a risk for a developer to go through the whole platting process, get it approved, only to not meet the condition because a rezoning is denied.
Okay, so I guess what I would like to propose is, and this is for discussion with everyone else up here, I would like to see the zoning ahead of any final plat that's proposed, so that we know that the notice is going to the folks that are in that area ahead of time, and we have their public input and consideration for the zoning case, which is, you know, like you're talking about, if density is a major issue, when that's the best time to hear it before we approve a final plat.
Chair Stribling, are these situations where you know they're going to be annexed into the city and probably get on city services and have smaller lots? And the reason I'm asking is, not always, but there are cases in the ETJ, given the expansive area, where they might be more than 1 acre, and they're not, and they don't want to annex in, and so there isn't going to be a zone change. But then there's cases like the one at Fairway Downs where they were unique because they were half-acre lots and they annexed in, but they could have stayed on, depending on the lot sizes, they could have chosen to stay out of the city limits or change their mind. So there's some exceptions.
I don't think they had the water to do it.
No, yeah, and I think the answer to that is, if they need zoning to do the plat that they're proposing.
Exactly. That's exactly.
Then they would need the zoning first, is
There,
what you're
there.
suggesting.
That's exactly what I'm suggesting. If we need to rezone in order to approve the plat that's proposed or what the developer wants to do, then I think we should hear the zoning case first. It's notice to the residents in that area. I think it makes a lot of sense, especially when you're talking about density as it relates to the development of that land.
And when you say you want to hear it first, there's two ways we can interpret that. One is you've heard it. So like today, you've heard the zoning. If you're comfortable with it, then you could approve the final plat.
Yes.
Or are you suggesting that it go all the way through the council process before they bring the final plat back to you?
I would leave that question to my colleagues. My main concern is notice to the residents. And so.
What step do you notify the residents? Before, to us or to the council?
Both. They get notice before this meeting of the public hearing at this meeting for the zoning, and that same notice gives them the date of the city council meeting. So if any, for example, on this zoning, if anybody had been opposed, they would have had the opportunity to be here or submit their written opposition.
Right. And that was the problem with the South San Angelo tract, is that we heard all of the plat discussion and 3 or 4 meetings, and then the notice was sent out for the rezone after we had been through all of that. And it created quite a stir because we had done so much work ahead of time that we had approved a final plat without zoning. So
was that a unique situation on that one? I mean, again, I've been on planning for a year and a half now, and that was the first time that's ever happened.
that's the first time
It
I
was
can
very
recall.
unique.
Yeah.
It was unique.
Yes, sir, please. I'm going to open public comment. Yes, sir.
I have a question.
Okay.
Okay, I already have a preliminary plat that was approved way back when. And so now I want to apply for annexation of part of that preliminary plat. And so normally the zoning would be concurrent with that, because when it's annexed, it's ranch and estate. And so I would run it concurrent to RS1 for single-family residence. So can we put out notification of zone change with the annexation? So that the people see the sign and see that it is going to be annexed and a zone change? I mean, I'm not wanting to wait 3 months to annex it.
No, I don't have a problem with that at all.
And then 2 months to get a zone change, and then 2 months to get a plat. Now we're 7 months into the deal.
Right, and just so we're clear, my objection to what happened before is that the residents weren't notified until the final plat had already been approved. And the annexation and rezoning came to us last month, and that was the first notice that the residents in that area had been given about the development that was occurring. We had already approved a final plat. And so that created quite a stir. The residents were very upset about that. And I think if the residents are given notice before we've gone through the platting process and they have the opportunity to voice their concerns or have input, then that's sufficient for me.
I don't see any reason, though, why it couldn't be concurrent.
No, and I was just going to answer that. That's
Yeah,
with
I
this
don't have a problem with
annexation
that.
and all of the ones that we're doing now, we're running the zoning concurrent with the annexation. So the annexation and the zoning should be approved at the exact same council meeting. So they're going
Yeah.
together.
And so at what time does the final plat go in?
After
Guess
the
it
zoning's
depends on what
approved.
these guys tell us today, but normally it would go, you would probably go to the very next planning commission after council has approved the annexation and approved the rezoning. Now, like we did with Fairway Downs, they actually went a month ahead. So the plat was approved, but with the condition that the annexation and zoning take place. I think what we're hearing is there's concern with that process. and that maybe we do the annexation zoning, and then the next month, the final plat would come to the planning commission.
So the time, Rocky, should be exactly the same, it's just that the plat would come afterwards instead of before.
We don't want to delay.
Yeah, I don't think
the
this delays
developers by any
the approval
means. We just wanna
process.
make
The
sure-
annexation process takes how many days? I mean, how many
60 to
hearings are
90
you going
days.
2 to
through?
3 months
And a preliminary plat is
is already in.
1 month, or a final plat, excuse me, is 1 month. So,
And we could time it depending on the timing of the council meeting. It would be at most a month delay. It could be 2 to 3 weeks.
yes.
Depending on how the city council meeting date and the planning commission date fall.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning, I'm David Jacobo. I'm just kind of move up, because this is a topic that I am following with y'all as well.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I am a small business, and then I'm also on the board with the construction board, where in my intention is to try to help the working class and the small business,
Yes, sir.
and try to take focus on their problems as well, like you are.
Yes,
And
sir.
I appreciate that. Okay, I'm kind of moving up, because I got to get back to work.
Okay.
I'm behind on work. On the rezoning on 208 Block West Avenue L Hill, Mr. Fisher does know me, and he knew I was upset about the situation. Did not know any notice until there was a sign on our property without notice.
Yes, sir. I see your case, and what I'd propose doing is hearing that case immediately after we close this one.
Well, I gotta leave. I gotta get to work. My problem is that this notice, I appreciate it if you can give us the notice and let us know what's going on. I understand if the developer has bought their property, they can do whatever the heck they want to do with their property. But don't go across our property and start trying to do everything unless it makes paperwork easy for them. I don't know, Brandon, on the legal part of it. Is it all right for them, once they start going to one property, they just start changing everybody else's property without notifying us?
So you have a property that the staff has proposed rezoning.
Yes,
That
and
is not a specific, it's not necessarily related to this case.
Not this
You don't
case.
own the property that's.
No, but it kind
subject
of
to
falls
this.
into this subject.
It's in that
matter.
block. I
Yes, sir.
understand.
And that's all I'm just trying to get. And I'm just trying to jump overhead so I can leave
Yes, sir.
and go to work. And that's
We
the
have to call a
property
point
that
of order.
I would want some support from y'all instead of the realtors taking advantage of, our hard work.
Yes,
You
sir.
know.
I understand your
And I know we're getting off
concerns.
the subject, but
Yes, sir. If you'll give us the opportunity to just close this case out, I'd be happy to open up public comment as quickly as I can on that
yeah,
case and
but
let you
this
come
subject
speak.
matter that you brought up, this is why I came up, but I want to go. But I was going to leave if we.
If you'll sit tight for 5 minutes,
Okay.
we would very much like to hear your opinions.
Yeah.
All right, I appreciate
Thank you.
that. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else on this case wish to speak?
In reading the land development ordinance, the code of ordinances under the planning commission action as it relates to final plats, there's several: approve the plat conditionally upon additional information, corrections, collateral approvals, and/or necessary changes. So that's kind of why, and that's the process we've been doing, is asking for conditional approvals. And an approval with conditions means denial until all conditions are met. And so an approval with conditions mean you're denied until you meet all of those. And one of those conditions, in this case, in the one we're talking about, would be a zone change. And so, in this case, we're at least running them simultaneously, so the public has had the opportunity to hear it. We're a wholly different
Yes.
scenario than the south side. We don't want to hopefully not get penalized because of
No, sir.
that scenario. So, we would ask approval of this with the conditions.
Yes, sir.
That we've talked about. And for developers, it's a fine line, and it's time and it's money, and it's all of the different things that roll into this. And so, so the question is, do I want to get approval of the plat, of the zone change, start on engineering for the streets? And so it's a big, complex kind of schedule of trying to make all of this stuff come together. So yeah, maybe some clear direction on when and how we should do that. We may need to revise the code of ordinances if we're talking about pulling out and making sure that some sort of zoning is intact, that you guys would deny the property until the zoning is is in place, you know. But I think your approval with conditions, May and Brandon might can speak to this, that approval with conditions is a denial until those conditions are met. So maybe y'all should have, if there was this opposition for that south side deal, maybe the zone change shouldn't have been approved. And that was a risk that these developers take of doing all of that work of engineering and plat approvals, you know, and that's why I tell clients, you're going in for a plat that doesn't meet the zoning. Now, if you don't get your zoning, this is all in vain, and so they recognize that. So it is a little bit of a calculated risk.
The only concern I have, Russell, is the notice to the residents.
Right, absolutely.
And
Right.
if you're, I felt like the case in South San Angelo was kind of done in a way to exclude the public from input and involvement. And they were hot when they came in last month, and we had already approved a final plat. And so I'm trying, if we had notice that went out on preliminary and final plats, I don't think we'd have an issue here, because the public's going to be notified. We don't do that, and I don't propose that we do that.
Sure.
But I think that if there's zoning that's required to develop what they're proposing, we should hear that ahead of approving a final plat for a subdivision. So,
And I would suggest perhaps a compromise is, in a case like today's,
Yes.
where you have heard the zoning case.
Yes, sir.
People have gotten notice.
Yes.
So if they bring a final plat that you haven't even seen the zoning, and so no notices have gone out, then deny
Exactly.
the plat. But in a case like this, don't make them wait until after it's gone to council.
yes, I agree.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Russell.
And you know, the south side was listed for a number of years by different agencies and everything. A sign would go up, it would go down after a couple of years, relisted. And so those residents saw signs coming and going, and when that final for sale sign was gone, they just assumed it hadn't sold.
Right.
And didn't, you know, it was not on their agenda, wasn't on their minds, and it progressed.
Right. Okay, so we have two items for consideration. PP 2205, which is the preliminary plat, and FP 2218, which is the 15.795 acre final plat. I'm going to close public comment and take a motion from
I have
anyone.
One question before, and I'd like to make a motion, but on that install sewer main, are there actually sewer mains out there, or would this be septic?
Yes, there will be, once the annexation is approved and the
Okay.
servicing plan is approved. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. I'd like
Okay.
to make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve. Do we need to hear these separately?
No.
Okay, so both the preliminary and final plats, we have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 6-0 on both. Now I'm going to move back to rezonings, Z 2214, 200 block of West Avenue L, tabled from June 20th meeting. Request for approval of rezoning from the general commercial, heavy commercial zoning district to low-rise multifamily residential and general commercial zoning districts being 1.24 acres located south of West Avenue L between South Randolph and Hill Street.
Jeff Fisher, Chief Planner. I'm going to go through this quick. I know Mr. Jacobo's got to get going, and he has a couple things to say as well. We tabled this from last month, and the reason we tabled it is for two reasons. Commissioner Gomez is away today, but he had gotten some information about questioning about the legality of the sale.
Yes, sir.
Of the properties under number 4. Staff has researched that, has spoke with the new owner of number 4, looked at the warranty deed, looked through the appraisal district, looked through the county records, so we did not find any legality that we were unaware of. And so I think based on that, we would go forward. The second issue was how far do we zone these properties? And so the orange areas here wanted to go to, so all of this is RS2 right now, and they wanted to go to, CGCH, they wanted to go to RM1. As we looked at that block, it made sense to do RM1 across those middle rows as well. You know, Mr. Jacobo owns number 13, so we got a letter back from him, and him and I had spoke last month about keeping the CG, but just removing the CH part of it. He's got a restaurant over here, and then he's got 2 homes. He's talked about possibly redeveloping into commercial. We just didn't want the heavy commercial there.
Yes.
So as part of this overall discussion, normally this doesn't happen. But if we can, as staff, if we look at a larger block and look at highest and best use for the residents, and the residents are comfortable, then we would do this. Otherwise, we wouldn't. So we did get opposition from these two middle owners here. So our plan today would be, these owners want to go to RM1, makes sense. Long-term plan is neighborhood. Leave these two out, keep them CGCH. These two owners were completely opposed. And then if Mr. Jacobo is okay with it, we would go to CG here and lift the CH off. If he's changed his mind since the last meeting and wants to keep it as CGCH, that would be up to y'all to just leave that alone. And so really, we would just be rezoning these three properties here in orange to RM1 and leave everything else the way it is.
Okay.
So those are your choices today. I'm not going to represent anything unless you guys want to. We've talked about conformity with the official
Do you have
comp plan.
is there a site plan or anything for the RM1?
There's not, but I can explain it. What they want to do is replat, and so basically they would see where that middle line is between the two number 4s on the west, extend that line over onto the second lot, and then one owner would own to the north a rectangle, and one owner to the south would own a rectangle. The one to the south, there's already a house there. The gentleman to the north would turn it into a fourplex. And so the RM1's going to allow both, the existing home and the fourplex.
Okay. Anyone have questions for the staff? All right, I'm going to open it up for public comment.
Again, I'm David Jacobo. Thanks for moving this up pretty quick, Travis.
Yes, sir. So
you
you own, you're 13.
Yeah, my dad wanted to come out here. I didn't want my dad to come out here because
Yes, sir.
he's very upset. So he's going to be mad at me either way. But I'd rather speak. And, you know, Trinidad, I know we met before. His wife has a small business. And when we saw it, we were very upset. We did get the letter the day after they planted the sign in front of our property.
Okay?
Of course, that made me upset. And of course, that would make any of y'all upset.
Yes, sir.
Had no idea what was going on. Now, what Mr. Fisher explained, I'm fine as long as they own the property, they can do that. The neighbors, they were upset as well.
Yes, sir.
So I wasn't able to make the meeting last month because I had to go to a funeral in East Texas. So we kind of called Sam and said, hey, what's going on with this? There's no way I can make this. But long story short, I'm happy with the deal, but just leave my property alone. Don't rezone it. Don't change nothing. Just leave it alone.
Okay.
That's all I
Okay.
ask. And the neighbors, because this is an industrial boulevard. There's 4 lanes on Avenue L, and there's 4 lanes on Avenue N. You know, there's Miss Real's Corn Chips. The other side, we got the roofing, we got the Mayfield paper, and we got the food bank.
Yes, sir.
And I get about 100 people that show up in front of my deal when they Google. I get all roofing semi-trucks and food people, and everybody show up in my office. I get about 100 people a month. And it is commercial, and I appreciate it. I'm just a small business trying to make my move, try to build something. The last time I was with the Planning Commission, I was very disappointed on how I was treated. I have no confidence in them right now. And the last time that I was treated, you're more than welcome to take a look at it. And also with the city council, it's just, I wasn't even able to defend myself. They already voted me out before I can stand and defend myself. So you can understand my frustration and how I dealt with the City Planning Commission the last time.
Yes, sir.
When this happened up, I was just upset.
Okay, so just to be clear, you own
My dad
lot
owns
13.
the whole plot, the whole corner where that green star is.
Yes, sir.
All that area, and
So
then the
there's-
2 lots over there are the neighbors that we kind of help each other out. We look out for each other, kind of keep an eye for any people that's, you know, trespassing in our property.
Yes, sir.
So, and a lot of the other people on the other side, but we asked if anybody got letters, and the only ones that got the letters were the 2 on Avenue L, and that was it. The ones on the whole circle around we talked to, they didn't have no idea, or they threw it away.
Okay.
They have no idea. But I do want to advance notice, not just for me, but for any people that are small business, working class, just like you explained, that, hey, man, don't kick this in the dark and don't have some realtors come in and try to make money at our expense.
Right.
That's all I ask.
I understand.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Thank
You bet.
Okay, anyone else wish to speak?
Good morning, my name is Steve Mejia. I own the property at 211 West 70, which is right next door to what's going on here.
Okay.
You know, I don't know about the zoning change. I guess I'm with David. I don't really want nothing to change as far as my zoning. But I think it's all premature due to the fact that this gentleman said that he had spoken to the owners, which I don't know what owner he spoke to, but the property was sold illegally.
It was sold illegally.
Illegally, yeah.
Well, and Mr. Fisher is indicating that he's verified that it is a legal transfer.
Okay, well, I don't know.
It's not
who you
illegal.
checked- I don't know who you checked with, but I spoke to the owner this morning.
We're going to say based on our limited knowledge of legal
Yes,
processes.
there you go. There it is, limited.
Checking with county records, checking with the
Yes,
appraisal
there you go.
district, that there's,
Okay.
it appeared that no different than any other, or case that we looked at where there was a bona fide ownership transaction. Now, in terms of legal structure of their companies or their LLCs and all that detail, I couldn't answer that, but I could say that there was a legal transaction that went through and it's on the public record.
Okay.
So based
Okay.
on that, we just moved it forward.
You know, I just, and that's the concern of mine, is for the commission to move forward on something. I'm just gonna let the commission know right now that the property wasn't set into probate, which it was supposed to. It was sold from out of town. The owner was never known. So they never knew about any kind of transactions. And so once they found out, then the legality started. And so now there's a lot of legalities going on. So I'm just concerned that you're going to move forward on something that you're going to have to probably go back and look at.
Okay.
Okay, that I want the commission to know. So I wanted to know that I've let you know on that. Now, as far as the zoning goes, man, you know, I got the letter Monday morning and the meeting was Friday. Okay, so my concern is, you know,
Not a lot of
it just
notice.
seems shady to me.
Right.
You know, that's the thing. It seems very shady to me how the signs weren't put up properly with time efficiency and everything like that. And to me, it seems like the real estate company, it's almost like a car lot, you know, car lot people. You know, they're banking on the ignorance of our neighborhood. And that concerns me. That concerns me that people like yourselves, I have no faith in city government, I'm sorry. You know, I've been violated and molested a lot of my life through city government by not knowing things and being ignorant to the fact.
Yes, sir.
And so today I stand in front of you saying that, hey, you know, I don't know, I was under the impression that they could build a home right there as it's zoned right now. Is that not correct?
That is not correct.
That is not correct. Okay, well, then that's something I didn't know. I don't know why the zone's, and I'm concerned about maybe later on, maybe some low-income housing or something's gonna come in. Because is it 90% of that whole block that we live in, they're all homeowners. They've been there for years.
Right.
Now we're gonna get, you know, other people living there that, we're not gonna have any kind of idea who's living there. And
That's what they're trying to do, is make it to where it is residential. Right now, it's commercial. Somebody could come in there and.
but there's no commercial there other than
Well,
maybe
but I'm
David.
saying they could
Yeah.
do it, and there's
Yeah.
nothing you could do about it, because it's zoned that way.
Yeah.
They're trying to move it to residential like it is. It was zoned a long time ago, I'm sure, this way, because that was the initial.
I
deal.
want to be clear about this. The zoning that this block has is Cgch, which is arguably the broadest zoning that the city's ever had. And it allows for a lot of uses that residents that would abut that property would not approve of. Can you give some examples of permitted uses under Cgch?
Yeah, so under Cgch, they could do industrial service, they could do oil field equipment, heavy storage, even some light welding, those sorts of things that we thought were inappropriate. And knowing that you all had homes there, we thought that since the corner lot was going to multifamily residential, that we would, and just so you know, that multifamily residential doesn't mean you have to build apartments there, because those lots are small anyway. But it allows, if you have a single family home, you can keep it. You can do a 2-family home. You might be able to get 3 or 4 homes, like the gentleman that at number 4, which is what triggered all this in the first place. So we call that highest and best use, where we're looking long-term and trying to essentially protect the residents. Now, that said, of course, it can go the other way too. And with in Mr. Jacobo's case, he actually, even though he has 2 homes there, he was looking at doing commercial long-term. So this way, we put up the sign. I'm sorry if you didn't get that letter, not sure. Like I said,
Well,
we send
also,
those out, but, we're trying to be transparent with y'all.
Yeah,
and we appreciate you.
The point I was trying to make is that I think the city's intent is to protect the neighborhood, and it's well-intentioned, but we have an applicant, in this case, the number 4 on the map that you're looking at, and the city's gone through and is attempting to rezone the entire block, so 16, 17, and 13 property owners, as part of this comprehensive look at the area to downzone and reduce the intensity of development that could potentially come in down the road. The objection that I think most of us up here have had in the past is that property owners should be given notice and be aware of any proposed zoning
Yeah,
change.
we didn't have no sign, and there was nothing going on.
Right.
I found out that the property was sold. See, the people that own the property right now, which still own this property, and legalities are gonna come up. See, the thing is that there's all kinds of things going on, legalities, you're gonna have to deal with. And I don't know if they're gonna say, well, since it's already been sold, they could easily say, well, since it's already been sold, let's just go ahead and leave it like that, and we'll just fight for the other properties that they own.
Right.
But these people are friends of mine, 50 years. They've been friends of our families, and that's the only reason I said that. This is information, it's factual. It was done illegally, just so you know. And I want everybody to know here, I want it to be said.
So there was talk about a house that is on.
There's a rental house on that property.
It's a rental house.
It was a
So
rental
I
house
was
that
gonna ask
Nick
about the
Arteaga,
occupants.
which was the owner of the property, he passed away. So when he passed away, that's when things started happening. And so
Okay.
the lady was, the spouse, which is the owner.
Yes.
All of a sudden, things changed, and there was other things happening, criminal activity was going on via a daughter that lived out of town. That's who sold the property to the real estate company, which was done, nobody knew. All of a sudden, I said, did y'all sell the property? No, we didn't sell the property. But then, so I did some research, and I found out that the real estate company said, are they here? I don't think they're even here.
I doubt that they are.
Yeah. So, I mean, and I let them know right away when I started seeing people getting there. So, what are y'all doing? Oh, no, we bought the property. I don't know who you bought it from, because Mrs. Arteaga didn't sell the property. Because I know. I mean, I just, that concerns me. That concerns me that the commission can go ahead and move forward knowing that there's something going on.
Right.
I'm not just, this is not hearsay. This is,
Yeah, I think the response to that is we go forward based on the records that are public records and the records that are known to us.
Yeah, and I get that.
What you're doing is you're bringing in data that is, from the other side of it that we do not have access to. So we're basing the records, we're basing our decisions on the best information that we have.
and man, I'm not here to stir up trouble. I really am not. I just, man, I think the days of what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. It's, man, we're lost. We're lost in that area. I just know that it wasn't done right.
So
Just
as
you
the,
know.
on those lots, is the proposal to leave them as is?
And that's what I'm opposed to. Yeah, I want to leave my property the way it is.
Yes, sir.
If you're going to go forward with this,
Sir, you said you were number 11?
I'm at 211 West Avenue L.
Oh, 211. Okay, yeah, so we made that decision. We are not going to rezone your property at all.
And so that's not going to affect me later on down the road, right?
There's no change to your property according
Is
to
there
the
going to
city
be a
staff.
change via residential coming in and saying just change it without me knowing?
No.
Because I know people that were within the 1,000 feet of this change that didn't get letters.
Right. Well, I
So
think it's 200 feet.
What do you say? Oh, well.
Yeah.
Is that's our answer to that, or what?
Well, the challenge is they have procedures where they send those letters out, and it's similar to the public record. They have public record on where those letters get sent. If that goes to a P.O. box, goes to a relative in a different town or something, which we don't know, that's, they send those out with the information they have. They don't have the manpower or time to go knock on every door because we hear a lot of cases. So they do the best of their ability.
I don't know, I doubt this would happen in the more.
It's a big challenge,
affluent-
don't get me wrong, it's something we
Yeah, I
face
know.
all the time.
We've had, the challenge of notification has existed from day one when
Long time.
I came
Yeah,
onto
yeah.
this commission. And I think we can do a better job, and I don't know how to do that. I hope it's something that the staff and the city council.
Well, I appreciate you
Visit.
bringing it to attention right now. I mean, I
Yeah.
know you said that
Well,
about
it's
the
a
notices.
common,
We're
it's a
trying.
common challenge that
Yeah.
we face.
And what the city's doing is they're following the minimum guidelines for notice, which I think is 200 feet within an area of
thought it was
the
1,000
changes.
feet.
It's not 1,000, it's 200. And so if you look at this perfect circle, this
It
is
goes to my ignorance. I mean, I stand here
No.
and I'm trying to.
No.
And I apologize for, again, I don't want to make a stir, but
So if you look at this map, the properties in gray are the ones that received the notice. And it's a perfect circle around this half block that the city was looking to rezone. Not just property 4, which is the case that we're reviewing. So it doesn't look like a lot of notice when you look at the map and see who got a letter and who didn't for the changes that could impact.
yeah, there wasn't no signage. The minute I got the letter, all of a sudden, when David had called, I guess, the city manager, Mike Dane, or see, he talked to somebody, all of a sudden signs got posted.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
And so, that's a case to the realty company, is that correct?
No.
Or is that the
No,
city?
the rezoning
we-
is for the entire block.
But
It's the city planning department is responsible for putting those signs out.
Really?
And that's one of their requirements on a rezone case. They are required to put signs in the
So the
lots.
the sign was put up about 13, 14 days before the meeting, which is our requirement.
But
as
let me
well as the
also be
letters, but-
clear,
Yeah.
you can't prevent someone from taking that sign down. Someone can steal the sign. So they mail notices out to folks, they put signs in the yards, they're trying, but it's an imperfect system. And
Right,
it's-
well,
and it's-
I get that,
It's very difficult.
So, as far as the rezoning, I guess my property be left alone.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And what, and as for, what about the legality of this?
That would be between the owner and.
Well, I know that
and-
there's a
them.
process going on.
If it goes to court and they change it or whatever, then this would probably, I guess,
It
be
is
null and
premature.
void because they don't have they won't have
Yeah.
the property.
Yeah.
I don't know that.
Is there any possible way we could get this tabled another 30 days?
I don't see why we couldn't ask to see the owner
Well,
and have them answer to the ownership question.
Yeah,
if
the,
it's
the
been-
owner, his name is Zane Willard, he's very cooperative and personable. I'm not sure why he didn't make it today, but.
We didn't make it last time either.
I believe
Yeah,
that the
but I have been in communication with him and.
the property was set up in a trust, I think, prior to the exchange of ownership. Anytime there's a property in a trust or any legal documentation after a person is deceased, the title company steps in the middle. They have no ties to either party in the transaction, and they make sure that everything is done legally, that the documents are correct, that any
Well,
will
the-
has been probated. And so
Yeah.
again, we don't have that
Okay,
information.
well,
That
I'm
would be
letting
the
you know
title
that
company.
it's illegal.
Yes,
Something
sir.
happened, it was illegal, and it's gonna come to light. So there you know, I've let you know,
Yes,
what
sir.
you do with it is what you do with it. I think it's a representative of the character of the commission. I don't know what else to say about that.
Well, I mean, that goes back to the property owner and
Yeah.
and the.
Yeah, and
and
we're
previous.
limited on what we can do.
Yeah.
We're not legal, we're not attorneys. And so we can't opine on whether there's legal possession. The city staff's done everything in their power to verify that the ownership
Man,
is
and I
legal.
appreciate you guys. I mean, I know that,
There's, and there's title companies, like Brittany just said, that are responsible for reviewing the ownership and verifying that the folks that are signing the documents are legally bound and have the ability
Yeah, I don't know
to
how the
transfer
property
the
got
title.
sold.
Yeah.
They don't know how it, the lady that owns the property doesn't know how it got sold.
There's nothing that we can unfortunately do. The title company is the
Well,
one that
but you
would
know
do.
now. I'm
Yes,
just
sir.
letting you know.
And what-
The title company would be
and to
doing that
Brittany's point,
research.
if there's an illegal transfer that was made, the title company is responsible. There's insurance.
Why go forward, though?
They provide the guarantee that the title can be conveyed. So if it's ruled that it was illegally conveyed, the title company becomes responsible for
Well, you just passing
that
the buck
burden.
there. I mean, I'm.
No, it's not passing the buck.
It's not
It's-
our, let me, if I can say one thing. If you're saying whoever the prior property owners are, they should be the legal owners, then it's really a civil matter where they need to hire their own legal counsel and
done that.
contest the transfer.
Yeah, they've done that.
And
I mean,
if
they're
there's
doing that.
litigation
And
ongoing.
that's my concern. You're moving forward, and they're in the process of doing all this.
Yes, sir.
The property wasn't put into probate, which it should have been put.
Well, and the other thing is, if there's litigation, there's a notice they can file in the property records where it puts the title company on notice that property
Well, I
is
just kinda want
subject
this
to
to be,
litigation. So if that didn't come up, then.
Part of the meeting.
That's the failure
I
of
mean,
their
again,
attorneys.
what the commission does is what the commission does. But as far as the zoning goes, I appreciate you leaving my property alone.
Yes, sir.
And I just hope that, my main concern was maybe low-income housing or something was gonna come in. You know, we don't have no say on that, and all of a sudden, it's there, and, because we have there's a lot of issues there.
Yes, sir.
With crime and, you know, people along the fence lines, and I mean, just daily, just 2 days ago, at Jocobos, they were trying to break into David's property. And I caught them Sunday morning, and, you know, every day it's something over there in our
Yes, sir.
neighborhood. mean,
I understand your
man,
frustration.
Yeah, it's just crazy, you know, and so, but thank you for the time that you've given me, and so.
Thank you.
That's all I have to say.
Thank you,
All right.
sir.
All right.
All right, anyone else wish to speak on this case?
If
All
I
right.
could add one thing, I
Yes,
just want
sir.
to explain briefly why we look at cases like this the way we do. And so the long-term plans for this area are commercial.
Yes.
So initially, we would think, well, perhaps zoning to RM1 is not appropriate. The appropriate thing would be to leave it commercial. This property owner, however, has development plans to go to RM1. Now, as we review that, the question is RM1 appropriate? And the answer could be no if the property next door could be heavy commercial, because then you're setting up a future conflict with multifamily residential right next to a heavy
Put in a
commercial
car lot.
use. That may not be there today. And so that's why we would look at, if we think RM1 is appropriate on the requested lot,
Yes.
perhaps rezoning at least to something less on the adjacent lots. Now, in this case, I think we're all good keeping it the way it is.
Right.
But that's the way we look at it, is we're creating now today by this action a potential conflict in the future if we're saying this one property is multifamily residential, the next door property, we're okay with that being heavy commercial.
Right.
And so I just want you to understand, we're not trying to go out and willy-nilly just zone people's properties
Right.
against their wishes. We're trying to do what's best for everyone and protect property rights of both parties.
Yeah, the future land use was
understand.
neighborhood, so that would encourage rezoning to residential. And the other thing is, the CGCH right now, where all those homes have including the last gentleman, if that home was ever destroyed by fire or he just knocked it down, he wouldn't be able to rebuild it without a rezoning or a conditional use.
Right.
If he went to RM1, everything he has right now would be legalized, and
Right.
then he could even build a second unit on it. So it was really just for that. But again, they don't lose any rights by keeping it the way it is right now.
Okay. I've closed public comment. So does anyone have more questions or opinions or wish to make a motion on this case?
I would like to make a motion based on the knowledge that we have at hand today. I would like to approve this, and also in that approval, only the number 4 would be rezoned to RM1. Everything else would stay CGCH on that block.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve rezoning. Uh-oh. What
I'm
happened?
sorry, I jumped too quickly.
That's okay.
Go ahead.
Rezoning
Yeah.
owner 4's lots, which are the applicants, but not rezoning any of the other lots that the city proposed rezoning.
Correct.
So that would be, can you go back to that map? I'm sorry, Jeff.
No worries.
So is it 16, 17?
16, 17, and
13 will remain with their current zoning. No change.
CGCH, yeah.
Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, 6-0.
Okay.
I'm going, I was going to go here. Yeah. A and B. Okay. Okay. So we're back to subdivision plats. Item A is PP 2220, preliminary plat, Andrew D. Smith subdivision. A request for approval of a first replat of a preliminary plat portion, Andrew D. Smith subdivision being 2.301 acres, located northwest of Luna Street and Medina Street. You want me to read item B as well?
Yes, please.
Item B is FP 2207, first replat in Lot 5, Section 2, Andrew D. Smith subdivision. A request for approval of a first replat of Lot 5, Section 2, Andrew D. Smith subdivision being 1.367 acres, located northwest of Luna Street and Medina Street.
Good morning, Planning Commission. Aaron Benoit, Assistant Director of Planning and Development Services. I've been promoted this month just from flipping the screen to actually presenting, so you guys are in for a treat.
Congratulations.
So we do have Andrew D. Smith preliminary plat and final plat. Let me see if I can do this before I break it, but let's see here. So right here, this area right here on this subject property map, behind the, I think it's Belmont Church, they have sold off some property here kind of in a long L shape that touches Luna on the east and Medina on the south, and the Bell Street, of course, is to the west. So now you can see here's their preliminary plat where they've got 6 lots facing Medina and 1 large lot facing Luna. Right now they're trying to decide what to do with the large lot on Luna because it is much bigger than just a single-family residential lot. It is zoned RS1 as of right now, but they are able to develop those lots that are facing Medina. And this, again, is just the preliminary plat. The final plat, again, shows those 6 lots. Water and sewer is available. The road is to the standard widths. And so they would not have to make any improvements, as well as hydrant coverage is, as of right now, is acceptable. If they decided to build something way at the back, it might change, but the developers and the home builders are aware of that. So we do recommend approval of the Andrew D. Smith preliminary plat, subject to no conditions. Just that a note that a preliminary drainage study may need to be provided, and that's on the decision on the engineering services interim city engineer. If that is needed or not, he's still looking at the lot sizes to see if that's needed, and so it's just a note at this point. The final plat is a recommend of approval with subject to 3 conditions: the standard tax certificate, and then since it is by a church, the new sidewalk ordinance says that they're basically within 300 feet of that church along Medina. It would affect the lots on Medina that it should have a sidewalk. There is a waiver process for the applicant to go through. If after the planning commission makes approval, they can go through a waiver process that goes to the planning director and the city engineer. If they approve the waiver, they do not have to do the sidewalk. If the planning director and city engineer deny the waiver, they could bring that waiver request back to the planning commission for approval or denial.
Okay.
And then a full drainage study would be needed if there's more than 5% development increase in that area. They would have to do a final drainage study. So those would be the 3 conditions of the final plat. And
So
of course,
Aaron, I'm sorry to interrupt, but
Go
just to
ahead.
be clear, if they build houses on these lots, they're going to be required to do a drainage study.
if there's more than 5% development, if it's over 1 acre and there's more than 5% development in that acre, they would. Now, each individual lot does not trigger that.
Okay.
Right? So it may have to be for the entire project, they may have to look at that. And that's
Okay.
one of the reasons why they still have that lot preliminary platted, because they're looking at, well, is there a way to do some detention over there if it's required?
If it's required, okay.
Any questions for staff?
Any questions for the staff? Thank you, Aaron. I'm going to open it up for public comment. Anyone wish to speak on this case, please state your name and address or single-member district.
Good morning. My name is Blake with Will Engineering. We just wish your approval, and as he mentioned, we'll be filing for the exemption for the sidewalk. So,
Okay.
any questions?
No questions. Thank you, sir. All right, anyone else wish to speak? I'm going to close public comment. Anyone have thoughts or wish to make a motion?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve as presented. That's both the preliminary and final plat. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? 6-0 on both. Or excuse me, 5-0. Terry has recused herself. Okay. Is Terry coming back in? Great. Item E. Looks like E and F may be.
Yes, sir, that's
Same.
correct.
Okay, so item E is PP 2206, preliminary plat of part of Block 1, JCM Edition, Section 2, a request for approval of preliminary plat of part of Block 1, JCM Edition, Section 2, being 11.337 acres located northwest of YMCA Drive and Sunset Drive, and FP 2221, first replat of Tract 2, Block 1, JCM Edition, Section 2, request for approval of a first replat of Tract 2, Block 1, JCM Edition, Section 2, being 1.107 acres located northwest of YMCA Drive and Sunset Drive.
Thank you, Commission. Aaron Vanoy, Assistant Director, Planning and Development Services. So we do have another preliminary plat and final plat. You can see the kind of trapezoid there with Sunset roughly to the south, the railroad to the east, northeast, and then YMCA Drive just to the opposite side of those multifamily units right now. All that area that is under the preliminary plat is commercial or heavy commercial zoned, and the project is going to be a commercial project on the final plat. So here's the preliminary plat where you can see the large Tract 2C and Tract 2B. 2B is going to be the final plat. And so you can see that large tract, roughly 10 acres that is remaining out there for future development. So here's the Tract 2B, adjacent to Texas Pacifico, right there where Sunset Drive is. This is planned to be a commercial development. I believe it's going to be a medical office in conjunction with the area there that they're building a new office space that'll be fronting on Sunset Drive. Everything seems to be pretty straightforward on this one. Utilities and things are there. The right-of-way is correct. The paving width is correct. There is curb and gutter, and Sunset is not a major collector, but this being zone commercial, it does trigger the sidewalk along Sunset Drive for just the final plat in this case. Here's the zoning. You can see where, and you probably saw in the staff report, that it was a kind of a split zoning, that it'll remain a split zoning on that preliminary plat, as it kind of takes in part of that upper portion, but the lower portion is heavy commercial for that commercial use. I think we've been in discussion, and I will get with Mr. Gully to make sure. I'm not sure if CH allows for that type of commercial enterprise that they're doing, but they are looking at possibly rezoning just that lot, which would be that 1 acre lot, or doing some type of conditional use that might allow it in the CH zoning.
Okay.
So staff does recommend approval. There were only notes on the preliminary plat. Again, a preliminary drainage study may be provided. Note hydrants may need to be provided for future development, and note a local street may be required depending on development. And I'm going to go back just to the preliminary plat and just kind of explain the reason why those are notes. They're not requirements at this time, but the preliminary plat remainder, that Tract 2C is a very large piece of property. We don't know what the future is going to hold for that property, so that's why we just put notes on there to let the engineer and developer know that, hey, the city may require these things in the future, and so be aware as you go to develop that, let's have discussions with the city to see what's the proper development. So that's why we put that as notes on the preliminary plat. On the final plat, we did recommend approval, subject to the three conditions: current tax certificate, sidewalk along Sunset, and the construction is deferred until the building permit. The only requirement is provide sidewalk plans for the condition of the plat. They just have to provide those plans for us to review. They actually will do the construction during the building permit process. And 4 is a drainage study is required on this one. And then again, notes, depending on where that building is placed on that 1 acre, may need a hydrant, it may not, it just depends on where that's placed. Any questions for staff?
Any questions for the staff? Thank you, Aaron. I'm going to open it up for public comment.
Good morning, Russell with Cgch. As Mr. Vanoy pointed out, there's a group, the medical office building people bought the entire 11-acre tract. They've said they're not developers. They don't know what they're going to do with it. They're just going to, they want to carve out their little piece for their office building, their little medical office building, build that, and then sell the rest of it. And so that's kind of the focus for this, is to get them a platted lot there on that corner for the lot 1, and then they'll put the rest of it up for sale and see how, there's so many opportunities on a lot that big. What may go there in the future, we just don't know. So that's kind of why we're taking it at the perspective that we're looking at it, and would be happy to answer any questions. And we'll request of the city engineer to defer the drainage study to a later point of development. We're currently working on the site plan and engineered site plan drawings, and we've got the drainage study and detention basin design done as part of that, so we can submit those to them just about at any time. But for the plat, we may just ask to defer it and get it taken care of as part of the building permitting stage, and be happy to answer any questions.
Is the proposed use on the final platted lot permitted with the current zoning?
I don't know, that's what I was trying to look through and see if a medical office building is allowed in that zoning. So if it's not, we'll come forward with either a conditional use, special use, or a rezone. We'll just have to kind of dig into that with either Jeff or Mr. Vanoy and figure out what's going to be a requirement for that.
Okay.
I would point out that when you're looking at a plat, you're not really looking at the proposed use. In fact, often we don't know what the proposed use is, so you're really looking at, is the lot being created compatible with the current zoning on the property? In this case, it is. And so on the previous ones we talked about, they were creating residential lots that were too small for that existing zoning.
Yes.
But in this case, these lots fit in the zoning that it's in. If they happen to decide to use that property for something else that the zoning isn't compatible for, they would have to rezone. But these lots being created are compatible with the existing zoning.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We did just have a note from Kevin that they would need to extend a water main a little further down this street to that lot.
Okay.
And so that is an added condition, and I think Mr. Gully is aware of that, because I think they've turned their water plans in. So, yes. And
So we're adding a note to extend the water main.
we're adding a condition, yes.
A condition.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And then Mr. Fisher did look up, and it says they would need a zone change if it was a medical office that were to come in there. And so we'll work with the applicant to, if that's what they want to move forward with, get that to you.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on this case? All right, I'm going to close public comment. Anyone wish to make a motion? Okay, we have a motion and a second to accept as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 6, or opposed? 0. So 6-0 on both.
And Mr. Chairman, the reason why we did the preliminary plats on here, I think last meeting or maybe the meeting before, you had kind of stated a desire to see preliminary plats, and so we're not putting those on the consent anymore. Is that how you kind of like staff to move forward? So the citizens out there can also see the preliminary plats that are potentially in their area?
I think that would be very helpful, and thank you. Thank you for doing that.
Very good. We'll be happy to continue to do that as staff.
So item G. is RP 2224, second replat of Lot 9, Block 2, Poulter's Highland Acres Addition, a request for approval of a second replat of Lot 9, Block 2, Poulter's Highland Acres Addition being 2.919 acres northwest of Arden Road and Townview Lane, and a variance from Chapter 92B of the subdivision ordinance to allow a block length greater than 2,200 feet for Townview Lane.
Yes, this is Poulter Highland Acres up here. The top road is Mercedes that comes around. The bottom road is Townview that stops right there. Of course, this is O.C. Fisher and the State Park back here, and you can see this is the overflow or the spillway of O.C. Fisher right here. Just to give some context, we are looking at this lot on the north that is absorbing a piece that they purchased here from this lot in the south, and it is a second replat for the lot on the south as they are selling that piece off. So here's that replat that they show. It actually kind of goes back to the original configuration that this subdivision was planned at. It could be that the lot on the south had, multiple lots through there, and now they're just making enough lottage on both sides that they're going to build a house on the north side. The south lot is actually completely built out already. The variance request is a block length of more than 2,200 linear feet in our subdivision ordinance, both on Woodrow Street and Mercedes Avenue. And there's also a staff-initiated temporary turnaround on Townview Lane that we have worked with the fire prevention team on as well. So in this, we look at, is this detrimental to the public safety, health, or welfare? So Townview Lane is a very long pre-existing road with only personal property drive access to turn around. And we said, however, the density of the housing is low, and the fire department has determined they are able to maneuver emergency vehicles in the area without the need of a temporary turnaround since all land is currently platted. And they really wanted us to emphasize that this is a very unique, single, individual thing. If this had all been undeveloped land, they would not have looked favorably upon this. So we just want to make sure that that's clear. Mercedes Avenue is long, but it does have entrance-exit on Arden Road to the west and Fisher Street to the east. And so it's a continuous road. While it's over the 2,200 linear feet, it at least have road connection at both ends where Townview does not. One of the unique things about this property is the properties to the west is federally owned, and thus making a temporary turnaround is problematic, trying to get on that property, as well as the topography that's out there makes it a little problematic. And this was a great reminder for me as staff is to don't always make your decisions on a 2D map. Go and see what's actually out there, because when you go out there and you see the topography, it really is different than what you would expect, as we're somewhat flat out here. So, so at this time, the staff does not believe that the applicable ordinance will be significantly varied if the variances were granted. So I did take some photographs. This is the property on the south end. You can see there's a privacy gate there on the left, but everything to the right of that going, all those treed area, that is all core land or federal land. And you can see the roads there is fairly wide. It does have curb and gutter, and the fire department was comfortable with having particularly emergency vehicles, not necessarily their large fire trucks. They said, we'll figure that out if we ever have to get one down there. Hopefully they don't have to. This is, again, just a front-on view of that property. This is along a Mercedes. While the road is not as wide as Townview Lane, you see to the right there's quite a bit of right-of-way and AEP easement, and so there's lots and lots of room there, but it's also, you see the AEP easement is very tight to the road, so widening and doing things there makes it very problematic if you're developing one lot. If you're doing more lots, that makes more sense, and you can see there are hydrants out in the area. This here to the left is the trees of the lot that they're going to develop. They already have a hydrant right there. Excuse me, and you can see the overhead power lines. I used that as a reference, so as I drove down Mercedes Lane, you see those power lines again, and you can see there's actually quite a bit of incline difference, and so that is challenging right next to their property of how do you put a road in that goes north and south or a temporary turnaround, and so that is our reasoning to support the variance of the block length. And then you can't really see it, and so I'm not a great wildlife photographer, but me and one of the American bison had coffee that morning. So just like to have those there. So This is recommend of approval for Poultney Highlands Acres Edition, Block 2, Lot 9. The only condition at this time is the tax certificate. All the infrastructure is there, and it's just a tax certificate. Any questions for staff?
Any questions? All right, we're going to open it up for public comment. Thank you, Aaron.
Russell with SKG. Really want to thank staff for going out and taking the time to see the scenery and look and dive deep into this one. It is very unique. We recognize that, and it's kind of going back to, if like Aaron said, to kind of what it was originally. Some people are just kind of selling some land in their backyard and wanting to build some homes out there. And originally this Highland Acres continued on, and then when O.C. Fisher was constructing the spillway there, they just cut it off. So it is very unique, and we'd ask for your approval of this one as presented. Thank you.
Thank you, Russell. Anyone else wish to speak on this case? All right, I'm going to close public comment and take a motion or any thoughts?
Move to approve as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 6-0. Item H, RP 22-27, first replat of lots 16 to 19, Block 1, Lake Nasworthy Addition, Group 20. The request for approval of a first replat of lots 16 to 19, Block 1, Lake Nasworthy Addition, Group 20, being 1.748 acres located southwest of Knickerbocker Road and Red Bluff Road, and a variance from Chapter 93A1 of the subdivision ordinance to allow lots to not have direct abutting access to a publicly dedicated street right-of-way.
All right, last case I have to present is Lake Nasworthy, Group 20. There's 4 lots here in question along Hillside Drive. They are all built out, and we're actually just kind of cleaning up some area that needed to be cleaned up because of some of the buildings may have been built there a long time ago, either right adjacent to property lines or over property lines, and it may have caused some problems moving forward with some other permitting items. So you can see here, you can see some of those lines that are kind of moving back and forth, and some of the buildings that are on there. That's why I kind of showed this one. But this is a final plat, and you can see Hillside Drive there off to the right of the screen that comes through there, and right beside it says Lot 32. That's actually city-owned land. It's not technically dedicated as public right-of-way as of right now, and that is why we have the direct and abutting variance request that's come in. We do know that it is de facto road. The city maintains it. The city does everything there. I'm not sure about the land, if they have the property owners maintain the land as far as mowing, but the roadway, I know the city maintains that. So that's our one variance request, direct and abutting public right-of-way. If you look at it by saying they need to either increase that road or get to it, there's really not a great way to do that. If they were to increase the road, we're talking about 6 inches of pavement to get to the minimum. It's only a 25-foot wide road to get to 26. Their incremental half would be 6 inches, or you'd say, all right, you have to do a foot of paving. If you go out there and look at the roadway beside it, that's not really practical at this time. So right now, the staff does not believe that the variances that are needed for this plat to move forward are to the detriment of the health and safety of the public at this time. We do make a recommendation for approval, subject to just 2 conditions, against the tax certificate, and then provide access agreements across the private property, which they may already have. But they just are asking real estate, our city real estate is asking us just to update it if there's new property owner information of the private property, so they know who has the right access across those as their access agreement with the city. Any questions?
Yes, could you go back to the plat?
Yes.
So what has changed?
So I might have to have Mr. Gully help me. I got this fairly late in our cycle from a different planner. I believe this line here has moved, what I would say, to the south just a little bit. And I thought, and I could be wrong, this had been adjusted up here, but I thought that had been adjusted up there. And so it affected each one of the lots, not just the 2 in the middle, but also the ones on either side of them. So it's a fairly simple replat. Really, the only reason it's here is 2 reasons. 1 is the variance, and 2 is it's a residential replat, so it must have a public hearing.
Okay. And is there a driveway or something that connects to Hillside on the city-owned land? or
Yes,
how
there
does that work?
is. And this is not a great picture. I should have included some better pictures. There are drives that come out here that connect.
So there's one point of access?
I think there is for these three here, but this one has its own, I believe, here and the one down here as well.
Okay,
But most of them do utilize that one up there.
okay. Thank you, Aaron. I'm going to open it up for public comment.
Russell with SKG, we would ask for your approval with the variance as requested. This is really cleaning up. I guess one of the property owners had bought 2 lots and did some improvements and moved some lines, and then bought the neighbor. They swapped a little bit of land and moved some stuff around. So this is really, I think one of them was going to put one of the houses up for sale, and so they were kind of like, you know what, let's fix this, clean it up, get the lines where they platted lines are where we've done some illegal divisions and correct that. So really, this is just kind of getting the platted lines in the correct location. So I'd be happy to answer any questions, and I guess Mr. Vinoy's done such a great job, maybe we can see him every month going forward for a while, so, thank you.
Thanks, Russell. Anyone else wish to speak on this case? I'm going to close public comment and take a motion or thoughts.
Make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 6-0. All right. Conditional uses. The Planning Commission has final authority of conditional uses. Appeals may be directed to the City Council. CU 2213, 3208 Cornell Avenue. A request for approval of a conditional use to allow a short-term rental in the single-family residential zoning district located at 3208 Cornell Avenue. Thank you.
So one of the residents around the property could not be here and requested this letter be given to you guys. There we go. So I'm Ray Lineberry, City Planner, and this is CU 2213, 328 Cornell Avenue. It's a request for a short-term rental, RS1 zoning, District 5, ASU College Hills neighborhood. The pictures, the front of the house, the street view. The front of the house, there are 2 parking spots, which is required. We sent out 25 notices, 1 in favor, 7 opposed. One of the opposed is the letter you received. The impact is minimized. There's no changes to structures. They're consistent with the zoning ordinance, and the rental should be in the RS1 zoning, which they are. There's no effect on the natural environment. The community, there is no short-term rental within 500 feet, so the community does need it. The nature of the house does not impact the home. It's still a single-family residence. So staff recommendation is approval of the conditional use with the conditions that they maintain all off-street parking, that they are consistent with the zoning ordinance, and they will require a fire marshal inspection and a building inspection for change of occupancy. Let me know if you have any questions.
Could you go back to the notification? So you had 7 in opposition. Did anyone else write any comments or just oppose?
No, they just returned.
They just sent this letter back?
Yes.
Opposing? Okay.
Does the 7 in opposition include this letter?
Yes.
And which property owner is this?
It is, I don't know how to point.
Or,
It's
excuse me, this.
across the street from the green one and over to the right. The top button. Aha. It is this one.
On the corner, okay. Okay. Anyone else have questions?
No? Okay.
All right. I'm going to open it up for public comment.
Hi, good morning. My name is Elizabeth Berry, and I'm the property owner at 3208 Cornell Avenue. I guess my in favor didn't get submitted, but I'm in favor of this proposal as well as the property owner. I'm here to answer any questions or concerns that the commission may have, but it's my understanding that staff does recommend the conditional use permit, and so I am seeking your approval of that.
Have you owned this property for a long time?
No, sir. I purchased this property in May.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else have questions? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak on this case? All right, I'm going to close public comment. Man, a lot of opposition.
I think she complies with everything that she's required to comply with. And, I mean, like we say, every time one of these comes up, there's no requirements for rental property. So, I mean, this is going to require fire marshal and building inspection, and she'll have to come back in and reapply if there's anything, any reports or incidents that happen. I mean, then I could see, obviously, there's some recourse there. So I would move to approve as presented.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 6-0. Public comment, issues or concerns not on the regular agenda may be raised by the public at this time. Citizens should speak from the podium, address all comments to the dais, and begin by stating their name and address for single member district. Please limit all remarks to less than 3 minutes. I'm opening public comment. Seeing none, I'm going to close public comment. Director's report.
Just a few items. Couple of staffing notes. I don't know if you've formally been introduced to Ray. You saw her speak, but Ray Lineberry is a new planner in the office. She was already with us as a staff member, but now moved into the planning department. We did have a resignation from Kyle Warren, and so we are now one planner short again, so we have a vacancy that's posted out there, so hope to fill that position soon as well. I wanted to make one note from our discussion earlier, and we can talk about this at future meetings, but I just wanted to put it in your head to start thinking about. The conversations we had about notifications of plats, and particularly ETJ and zoning cases.
Yes, sir.
Right now, under state law, we're only obligated to notify per the municipal tax rolls. And so what that means is we only notify within the city limits. So if there's a zoning case and the properties across the street are outside the city limits, they're not required to get notice under state law. That is something we're having some conversations about. At some points in the past, we have notified those properties. Currently, our practice is not to notify those properties. I may have mentioned this, but a few years ago, the city council's direction to us was you notify what's required by state law, no more, no less. And so that's our current practice. But because that discussion, particularly with Fairway Downs,
Yes,
had
sir.
some implications for property owners outside the city limits across the street, they would not normally get notice under our current practice. And so, like I said, that's something we're discussing right now. And I know you all have asked for us to come back with a discussion item on notices, how we can do those differently and better. So we're still looking into that, and we'll be bringing something to you sometime soon.
Okay, so just to clarify, when you say sending notice, you're talking about mailing something to a property owner.
Correct. So there are normally three methods of notifications or notices that we do. One is mailing to the property owner affected as well as the properties within 200 feet, like you see on the map there. There is typically a sign placed on the property itself. If it's a larger property, we may place multiple signs, like one on each street frontage, for example. And then the third is newspaper notices. So those do get published in the newspaper, in their public notices section of the newspaper. I believe that also gets on their website.
I was going to ask,
notice.
in the age of the advances with online presence, I would hope and expect that there was some sort of notice that was posted online for folks to be able to go look and see what's available.
I believe the newspaper does have their public notices section searchable on their website. I will say that the state legislature has tried to change the requirement to not necessarily require publication in the newspaper.
Right.
And instead require that cities post on their website.
Yes.
That has been shut down every time it's been suggested, mostly by the people who own newspapers don't really like that idea.
Right.
But that's kind of where we stand in terms of
notices. I'm not opposed to I'm okay with the newspapers getting the notice. I do think that there are a lot of folks that don't take the paper that aren't going to know to go search on the website for the notices. And I think if we had notice on the city website and it was relatively easy to navigate, that would probably help.
Yeah.
It'd probably get more use than the newspaper at this point.
The last thing I had is just kind of related to that is a note that we've been notified by the newspaper that the time within which we need to get a notice to them to be published has increased. And so the implication that has for cases is we sometimes provide some flexibility to the development community. If our deadline for an application is Friday, and say they get the application in, but not all the supporting materials, we'll say, well, if you get them to us by Monday or Tuesday, that'll work. Given the shrinking of our schedule, we've got to get it to the newspaper 2-3 days earlier than we normally do. Some of that flexibility is going to have to go away, and so our timelines are going to be tighter, because as you know, in most cases, we've got like 30 days from the application till it has to come to you all today. And if we back up from that, we have to put it in the newspaper something like 15, 16 days before this meeting. And then if the newspaper needs it 5 to 7 days before that, we're really starting to push those timelines. And so...
But newspaper notice at this point is a state requirement.
That's correct.
So we can't do away with it.
Correct. And so in order to get the notice in the newspaper, we have to know enough about the case to write the caption for what the case actually is. And so, again, that just compresses our timelines a bit. And so that's largely maybe more for people like Russell than you all, but just so everyone is aware, because of those timelines and the statutory requirements, it's a pretty narrow window. And if we don't get a full application by the deadline, there's going to be less flexibility on that at front end.
Okay, so in terms of timelines, it would be difficult for you guys to perform in the 30-day window that you're trying to perform in if the timing's off on when it's actually submitted. Is that correct?
That's right.
If they just missed the newspaper deadline, it's not going to make the meeting that's in that 30-day window. It's going to go to the next meeting.
That's right. Now, again, that's why we set our application deadlines when we do, so that it gives us plenty of time.
Yes.
All I'm suggesting is that in the past, we've had some flexibility.
Yeah.
If you couldn't get it to us on Friday, well, if you get it to us on Monday, we can still do it. There may still be some of that, but we're going to be a little more tighter on it, because if we take it 2 days late, then all of a sudden we're maybe not able to get it in the newspaper on time. And so
I understand.
that's where we're at.
Okay, that makes sense.
That's all I had.
Okay. Future meeting and agenda announcements. A special joint meeting of the Planning Commission and City Council is scheduled to begin at 8:30 on Tuesday, July 26th at the McNeese Convention Center, South Meeting Room, 501 Rio Concho Drive. The next regular meeting of the Planning Commission is scheduled to begin at 9 a.m. on Monday, August 15th, 2022 at City Hall, East Mezzanine Room, 72 West College Avenue. Adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? 6-0, it's 11:01.